You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
John McCain and Corker say court case, not DHS funding, is the best way to resolve Obama's executive amnesty. That means they know the court case will fail, not having Congress exercise its power over the purse. They don't want that precedent set. They're there to undermine the separation of powers and the continuity of our republic. Our country's been overrun by a bunch of usurpers who are busy trying to end the libertarian conservative voting bloc's attempt to block the world government takeover of the United States, not just the rest of the planet. Daniel Estelin will be joining us from Europe via video Skype with big news on Davos, the upcoming Bilderberg agenda. Some believe that they found the 2015 location. In fact, print me that article if you can. I think it was a Steve Watson article. Location 2015 found. Bilderberg, I think I'll pull it up. We're going to get into that with Estelin up until the bottom of the hour. Then more on the fresh nuclear leak detected at Fukushima plant. Coldest months on record. February 2015 could be among the top 5 in recorded history. James O'Keefe, we're going to try to get him on ASAP, folks. I'm afraid for my life. Journalist set to release bombshell story. He's released, let's not exaggerate, about 5 or 6 #1 news stories in the U.S. that have brought down multi-billion-dollar criminal operations like Acorn. He's been arrested, I think, about 4 times. They tried to indict him. So he's not a guy that cries wolf. He's not the boy that cries wolf. If he says he's afraid for his life with this story, he better release it now. Because Breitbart said, you know, he had the white whale, the big enchilada, the big one, and he was deader than a hammer. I wonder if O'Keefe dies real quick, they'll just say, oh, he had heart problems, it's no big deal. You know, I have been physically attacked. I have been death threatened. I have been trying to cover a military operation in Florida, and, man, they just green-lighted the craziest stuff, breaking our hotel room. They had some guy jump out of the bushes and just start setting fires, going, okay, Alex, I'll follow your orders to set fires. And I had to, like, put the fires out and get the start of a physical altercation. I pushed the guy down, and I said, listen, you may think you're tough. Because I knew he was obviously current military, but sheep dipped. He'd been following us around. I said, I'm about to hurt you, man. And I said, you may think you're going to get out of this, but, I mean, you're not going to set a fire in my name. So he ran off into the woods. Never saw him again. He'd been at Waco shadowing us. Mike Hansen saw all this happen. And he was a sheep dip type. They always infiltrate those guys. And they think you won't know they're military when they've got all the bearing and all the activity and are giving signals to the military you're tracking. They'll send in these little bitty guys, like 5'4". Because I had them one other time send one of those in on us. And they just think that you won't recognize their special forces when they send the little ones in. Those are the worst. And I mean, I've just dealt with stuff people wouldn't believe. And we went through all that. Word about it spread in the military. And I was told by a colonel in the Army about 5 years after all that happened, he said, man, you are a legend in special forces. And I said, what are you talking about? And they go, chasing the helicopters and putting guns to your head. Or it was actually to Mike's chest, but the story changed a gun to my head. It wasn't my head. They said, turn that camera off in San Antonio. And we had the police chief throw them out. So we were down there 2 weeks later. They got real mad. They still did the drill, and we got word. So the MP sticks a gun to Hansen's chest when he wouldn't give him the camera. And Hansen, it was unbelievable. The problem is they took our tapes and erased them and then gave them back to us. But they all know it's true. So that's why that stuff then got exaggerated and all the stories got told to where they'd be doing these secret maneuvers. Because I was down there at Kingsville, San Antonio. Our reporters, auxiliary listeners were in Maryland, Alabama. We made films. There's video of this. Florida, L.A., and so the special forces started thinking it was me, but it was my listeners with cameras everywhere. And so I was like this boogeyman that was popping up during their drills. But it's funny how legends work. In fact, they still sometimes think I'm out there, and I haven't done that in probably 8 years. We'll be right back. Stay with us. From people on the periphery, but I do not have a source directly inside Bilderberg. But much of what they would cover at Bilderberg previously in secret is now rolled out publicly at Davos each year. Daniel Estulin has written several international bestsellers on the Bilderberg Group. He's also written a thinly veiled fiction that, of course, really isn't fiction at a lot of levels. Just like Ian Fleming's James Bond novels were true stories put into a composite. And he now has released a documentary we're going to be telling you about today. He joins us till 30 after, longer if he'd like. He's an author, public speaker, danielestulin.com, ESTULIN.com. And his latest book is The Octopus Deception. And he joins us now to break down world government. We've gone from 15 years ago, mainstream media said it didn't exist. Now global government's here. Presidents in Italy are appointed because they're Goldman Sachs presidents. We see leaders appointed in other countries. We are now going into the technocratic era. That, of course, is a statement out of Bilderberg 6-7 years ago and from Davos last year. So really, they're coming out in the open. They're dissolving borders. They're passing global treaties without ratification. The text of the treaties are secret. Things are moving into high gear, and at the bottom of the rat hole is transhumanism, and Daniel will break that down. I want to look at the conflict with Russia. I want to look at what's happening in Europe, what's happening in Greece, standing up to Germany, at least on the surface. Daniel Estulin joins us via video Skype to give us a rundown on the latest unfolding worldwide. He also published his second book, released in 2006, described by Fidel Castro as a fantastic story. Castro wanted to meet him, so he went to Cuba to meet him. Estulin is not a communist, by the way, but I'd meet with Castro if he wanted to meet with him. The point is he's very influential because his analysis is cutting edge. And I happen to know who one of his Bilderberg sources is, by the way, through Hollywood connections. I'll just leave it at that. So I know Estulin's for real, and his intel continues to come out and to be accurate year after year. So he's got the big scoop on where it may be held this year. Is it accurate, as some are saying, that it's going to be in Austria? And a lot more. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Alex, it's always a great, enormous pleasure for me to be on the show. You and I go way back. In 2006, we had together, standing right in front of the Bilderberg Hotel in Canada, Ottawa, when you were arrested, if you remember. Of course you remember. Yes. Just before you came to Canada. And so we've been doing this for a long, long time. And, of course, Jim Tucker was with us. He's no longer with us. But there's a lot of people out there who are doing what they can to make sure that this story doesn't die. And, again, this global awareness, which we were talking about before, on the world stage, people are becoming aware more and more what's going on as a result of technological revolution, internet and everything else out there. It's getting more and more difficult for the global elite to hide their deeds. And as you said, we do have the sources. And I'm very glad you didn't actually give out the source we have through Hollywood, because these are some very, very influential and useful people for our cause.
Well, sure. I mean, of course, I'm not going to get into it, but I wasn't giving out a secret for those that know. But,
no, I know.
Sure, but and that's just one of your sources. But I'm just confirming that that some inside baseball for folks out there that know what we're talking about. Daniel, continuing looking at what's happening, why do you think they're coming show out in the open? And then you've got the floor, because I could ask questions, but I want to know what's on your mind, the latest intel you've gotten.
Well, the Bilderberg meeting is being held actually in 2015 in Austria. On my Twitter account, @Estulin Daniel, I published a couple of months ago an information, a report that I got from my intel sources in the Ministry of the Interior of Austria, who sent me the report saying which dates that everybody in Austria has to be on the lookout. There is no holidays that week. I believe it's from the 9th of, I can't remember exactly the date right now, but it's the beginning of June, and it is being held in Austria, and we have the documents to demonstrate it. As far as what's going on in the world, the globalist elite, the reason that actually all this information is coming out right now, Alex, is that the global elite are faced with the reality of seeking to dominate population populations that are increasingly becoming self-aware and are developing a global consciousness. Thus, a population being subjected to domination in Africa, for example, has the ability to become aware of a population being subjected to the same forms of domination in the Middle East, in South America, or in Asia, or even in Europe, in Greece, for example. And they can recognize that they're all being dominated by the same global power structures. And that is the key point. Not only is the awakening global in its reach, but also in its nature. It creates within the individual an awareness of the global condition. So it is a global awakening, both in the external environment and also in the internal psychology. And this is something that the elitists, such as the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, Council for Relations, Pinay Circle, Bohemian Grove, all this, ONGs, Rockefeller Foundations, Carnegie's, Hudson's and Hoover's, they simply, can't deal with it right now because it's a new game. And this new reality in the world comes with the fact, Alex, that the world's population has never been so vast, presents a challenge to elites seeking to dominate people all over the world who are aware and awaken to the realities of social inequality, to war, poverty, exploitation, disrespect, imperialism, and domination. And of course, this directly implies that these populations will be significantly more challenging to control, both economically, politically, socially, psychologically, and also spiritually.